Another image that I think allows us to capture this elusive animal that is the city and cityness is the notion that the city produces a semantic space, probably several semantic spaces. And that means that it gives meanings. It explains, it reveals meanings about certain practices, certain people. Let me use as an example the downtown of a city during rush hour traffic in the morning and in the late afternoon, when everybody arrives for work and then everybody leaves for work. We step on each other's feet. We bump into each other. We might rip off a button. We might bump a person and the papers fall on the floor. Nobody takes it personally. There is a code, an embedded code, a kind of speech that in a way explains or makes clear this is not personal. The same action in a neighborhood becomes personal. It's an act of aggression. It's an offense. That kind of feature of cities, these embedded codes, and there are many such codes that hold for different parts of the city, that's extraordinary. And that is what simply a densely built up place with lots of offices or lots of high-rise housing buildings does not have. Those codes don't exist. Now, this issue of the code, the embedded code, I like to stretch it, to take it to further edges, to see what happens there. So at the limit, I like to argue that the city has speech. And I mean speech as in the legal scholarship. It's a complex, abstract property of a capacity. And of course, then one wants to ask oneself, besides that embedded code at rush hour traffic, what are other ways in which we can establish that the city has speech? Think of a car, a great car, an Audi, made for speed, made for long distance, capable of handling all kinds of terrain. And then it arrives at the center of the city with traffic, and it is forced to go at a crawl. I say, the city has spoken. It has told the car, not here, not downtown, not here you're going to be able to execute the full project of the engineer who designed you. That is for the highway, that is not for the city. And in fact, then what comes out of that? The smart city, the city that you can charge by plugging it into your home at a time when it's increasingly difficult to find petrol stations in the center of a city. Now, the car example makes something very visible. It makes it clear. Are there other such cases? What are, and I'm still looking for them too, but it's an interesting way to think about it, that the city does talk back. An image that one can also use is that the city can hack a technology, hack whatever, a kind of conduct. So it's not what has become a fairly familiar form, which is hacking the city. That we can do too, and that is being done too. Now, this is the city as hacker. And I mean hacker in the original, wonderful meaning of unsettling the design of the engineer, the design of the technologist. So you don't destroy it, but you sort of make it work in a different way. So the car that is slowed down to a crawl and thereby alters its DNA, so to say, the city has hacked the car. It has hacked that original design. It hasn't destroyed it. It urbanizes it. And this is another sort of image and a little project that I'm doing that I like. The notion of urbanizing at least certain technologies that are deployed in cities. The one sort of, I think something that is happening increasingly is this notion of producing very complex intelligent systems that can handle everything. They're closed. You may have choices, but they're really closed. It's not interactive, really. It's not open source. You have the illusion of choices, the illusion that you're interacting, because it can give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 15 choices, but it's actually a closed technical system. You plop that down in a city, And I think you have deurbanized the city, or you have to urbanize that technology, and then it might work. Furthermore, think of the accelerated rate of obsolescence of technology compared with the fact that a city's building, if it's well made, some of these buildings that function very well are 200 years old. If you plop down one of these complex technological closed systems that cannot be hacked by the user, so to say, because it's too many things. It aspires to take care of all functions. What happens? What happens when the technology becomes obsolete? Does the whole building become obsolete? That would really be a way of deurbanizing the city. So in a way, one conclusion one might draw is the importance of, on the one hand, trying to urbanize technology. Certain technologies, data pipelines, certain aspects of infrastructure, that doesn't matter. That's pretty generic, that can be pretty standard. But whenever it intersects with people's activities, with people's way of moving through a city, with people's ways of how they conduct themselves inside a building, then I think this notion of urbanizing technology becomes very important. That does not necessarily mean that you have to change everything. On the other hand, if we don't begin to work at this project, this challenge of understanding how do we urbanize these technologies, we are at risk of killing urban areas which may have existed for centuries, and that would really be an achievement. You know, when you think cities have outlived empires, kingdoms, republics, multinational corporations, financial firms. Why? Because they're complex but incomplete. And in that incompleteness lies their openness, this bringing stuff in, urbanizing, and in that sense, and also in a way, a semantic space that the city generates. This notion of the semantic space can be taken further in the sense that the meaning of something, again, the clear example of the car, in a way, the meaning of the car changes downtown when there is traffic from what the car is on the highway. So in that sense, the city's semantic space incorporates, it's capable of actually inserting the X that could have different meanings elsewhere. It inserts that X in its semantic space. I think it does that with people too, the code that I was talking about at the beginning. These are all ways, including, of course, this question of urbanizing technology, that we I think we can have a more sophisticated, a more complex, and a more promising way of handling this massive onslaught. It is an onslaught of all kinds of technologies that are being developed because cities are big business. China has 400 cities on the drawing board. All kinds of countries around the world are planning on building new cities. For some of the technology firms, this is a $52 billion annual market, you know, once it sort of gets going. So we urbanists, or we are not urbanists, but who love cities, who think that cities really are something that is more than the sum of the people, the sum of the buildings. There is work to be done for us. We have got to discover, and it's really also a question of discovering, the ways in which we can urbanize cities, urbanize technologies.